office.
Hi, I just wanted to check on the status of a case number.
Hold on, okay?
Thank you.
You give a case number?
Yeah, I think, okay, it's 18 CR.
Hold on, sorry, hold on.
Yep.
Okay, 18 CR
00685 and then 501613.
So we are talking about two cases?
I think it's just one case. Did I give you too many numbers? Sorry.
Yes. What's the defendant's name?
Joel Davis.
Okay, so it's 18 CR 685. That's
Yeah, okay.
case number.
Thank you.
Okay, and what do you need to know?
I know that the last sentencing, or that the sentence date was moved forward to November 4th, but I can't find any information about whether they moved it forward again or whether he was sentenced.
Okay, I'm looking at the last docket entry filed on September 28, 2020, adjourning the sentence to October 20, to January 20th, 2021.
Okay.
January 20.
January 20. And I'm sorry, one more time, the date, September, what day was that filed?
It was filed September 28th, 2020.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate your help.
You're welcome.
Mark, T-minus 1 minute and continuing to count. A water deluge system now has been turned on, activated at the pad area. Pressurization taking place now, the various tanks aboard the vehicle being pressurized. Switching to internal power. All stages switching now to internal power. All propellant tanks being pressurized. Count continuing smoothly. The water at the pad covering the flame deflectors now. We passed the 30-second mark. Water also will be coming on to the decks of the mobile launcher at the ignition point. T-minus 20 seconds. And the countdown continues to go smoothly. Guidance release. T-minus 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. We have ignition sequence has started. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And we have a liftoff. The Skylab lifting off the pad now, moving up. Skylab is toward the tower. Houston is now controlling. 18 seconds, pitch and roll program started. Saturn now maneuvering to its proper flight path attitude. Mark, 25 seconds.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show, Fear of a Flat Earth. Great to have you aboard. On the ship. Here we go. We're riding along, having a good time. Tonight we are discussing the COVID-19 coronavirus. I'm gonna try to do the show more and get on the air a little bit more. I've been nervous and about it a little bit. I was thinking, how do I just feel like there's a lot of topics that I'm like, I think I'm gonna get singled out and targeted and for removal really quickly. But then I thought, I thought let's be reasonable about our fears, right? So I rethought it, and I remembered that the purpose of this show, and it's a good here's where I'm going, is that I figured for this first episode back on the air, it's been a few weeks at least. I think it's been a few months since the last episode, but I figured that why not start off on just the hardest topic, and we'll see if we can discuss this topic without getting any kind of flags. I don't know. I mean, I'm not even. It seems like YouTube has been the heavy-handed distributor lately, and I'm not even going directly through YouTube. I've got several different channels before I hit the YouTube. But anyway, so we're gonna discuss this thing because there is a lot of information going around, and we want to discern between what information is true and what information is not true, what all this disinfo and misinfo, and what's good intel, however you guys think of it, however you want to put it. But we want to know how to deal with this thing. It seems like it's a big topic, so we're gonna tackle it today on the show. So, welcome. Yeah, so, okay. The thing about, excuse me for the mouth sounds, coronavirus, as many of you probably remember, excuse me, there was a big thing when coronavirus, when the first thing hit, because we've heard of that before, like, oh, coronavirus, what's that? It's on the back of like Febreze bottles and stuff, or I was saying Febreze, but it's on the back of Lysol cans and stuff. It turns out, I think it's a class of, let's see, I could look this up real quick. It's a class of, diseases. There are several coronaviruses, different types of it. But one of those types is actually the cold. That's a lot of people are comparing it to the common cold, and they're saying COVID-19 is, people were correcting them, saying COVID-19 is not the common cold, and that's true. And the reason that's a great distinction to make, because they are very similar. They are very similar in a lot of ways. So it turns out to be a great way, to get into that subject, to point out they're not the same thing. But we can consider how similar they are. I believe technically the common cold is a type of coronavirus. I could be wrong about that, but I'll have to look. I'm looking this up here. We'll listen to some music and I'll get some more cool info loaded up here. But yeah, basically, we know, anyway, what we know is that COVID-19 is a form of coronavirus. It's a new form. We know that coronaviruses are a common virus that we've known about for a long time. That's why you see it on the back of these bottles. But COVID-19 is a new generation of this virus, and it has certain mutations that make it different, and that's how we can say it's not the common cold, because there are certain aspects of it. It's kind of like a different class than the common cold, right? And so we got to talk about what makes it not the common cold. So anyway, so I'm sort of trying to smoothly transition into the next segment, which is where we're gonna look at what makes COVID-19 different than other coronaviruses. But the teaser, I'm just gonna give it to you guys right out front. What we're gonna talk about is how it appears to be, and there's a great debate about. It appears that COVID-19 is man-made, or could be the reason people were claiming that. It appears to be, I say, man-made because there are aspects of it that seem to be what we call a chimera strand. Now, any scientist worth their weight in chocolate or something, I love chocolate, will tell you that chocolate's good, right? Hopefully we're all good on. I like dark chocolate better because it's. I'm sorry for the tangent. I love dark chocolate better. I like it better than the milk chocolate, and I know some people like milk chocolate, but I think if you say milk chocolate, you don't really like chocolate. That's my opinion. If you're older, this is if you're older than 16. Like if you're an adult and you like milk chocolate over dark chocolate, then you don't really like chocolate. Feel free to, if you disagree with that, feel free to email me if you want to talk about it. The email for the show is fearofaflatearthradio@gmail.com. So drop me a line on there. But anyways, any scientist can tell you that a chimera strand, we can find examples of that in nature. There are different types of ways. What a chimera well, I'm about to get into it, but we're going to listen to some music, and then I'll catch you on the other side, and we'll talk about chimera strands and the debate about whether COVID-19 is man-made or naturally occurring. Okay? Okay, welcome back. So we're talking about COVID-19, chimera strands. What is that? What are we even? Okay, so I'm sorry. I hope you guys like the pace of this show. I'm trying to bring the pace up a little bit. But you want to keep a good rhythm of talking. You don't want to talk too fast on the radio. You want to keep people interested. You kind of want, it's like music. But I feel like I tend to, like when I jam on instruments, I tend to keep a really slow tempo, and I feel like I do that. I don't want to drag on. I don't want to keep you guys, I want you to feel like you're drinking coffee when you're listening to this show. Sometimes, if you like coffee. If you don't like coffee, I want you to feel like you're eating a good bar of dark chocolate. Okay, So chimera strands. What a chimera is a combination of like two different animals. So I'm trying to explain this in layman's terms. That's not really what it is, obviously, but that is what it is. So here now let me explain that. That's confusing, but the word chimera has a few different definitions, and they happen to be, there's some words that have different definitions that mean that have nothing to do with each other. For instance, graft. I forget. Graft means something. Graft in America, graft is an illegal political. It's a crime involving political corruption or the use of political office for financial gain, or political influence. So it's basically like a law against using your power as a politician to bully people. Period. But I think in England it means like, what does it mean? Let's see. Graft. I just looked it up and it's funny. Graft in England is like, well, we know to graft a plant is when you cut two plants. When you cut two plants and grow them together. Here's the definition. Graft in horticulture is the act of placing a portion of one plant, such as a bud or scion, into or onto a stem, root, or branch of another plant, in such a way that a union will be formed and the partners will continue to grow. So grafting is an important form of plant propagation. It's basically like combining two different plants. Like if two different plants could have a baby. It's a weird different, but it's not like through baby making, right? Like it's not through through the seed. It's like they cut two plants in half and the plants like form together. So the way chimeras, one definition of what a chimera is the ancient mythical creatures that were like the head of this animal and the body of this animal. That was a chimera. So it was like two animals grafted together. Now, in modern times, that's helpful for us to understand because it's sort of analogously the same kind of concept of what a chimera virus is. So we heard a lot about like bats and rats and all this stuff. So what they believe when they started studying COVID-19 is that it could be a chimera strand, and that means that it's part of one virus and part of another virus that came together, which seems now to right on the surface that seems kind of weird, and it seems we know that generally from a layperson's perspective that things don't just like if a cat and a dog run into each other, they don't become cat dog. They fight. They don't become cat dog. And we think, well, the same thing generally is true with cells. And while that's technically true, if two cells run into each other, they don't become cat dog cell. If this takes place during cell regeneration, which is like a constant thing, like cells are constantly regenerating. So if two cells meet, basically this is again the kind of layman's terms, and maybe we'll get a scientist on the show to describe this better if they're provoked to do so. It's when a chimera is when happens naturally sometimes when if two cells collide into each other at the same time during the regeneration process. So it's something that's possible to happen, but it's pretty rare or pretty common relative to how you look at it, I would say. But it does make sense why it would suggest to some people, especially on the lay surface level, why you would think that's a little strange. It seems weird, and we do know that that this process is something that is done synthetically, as we say. It's very possible to create chimeras in a lab, and in fact, that's what a lot of laboratory activity that has to do with disease study involves that process. And it goes all the way back to botany and to horticulture, back to ancient times with the it started with the roots of grafting. When you would take the desirable aspects of one plant and combine it with the desirable aspects of another plant. So that's what it looks like COVID-19 is a chimera virus. So it looks like it's from a bat, and I forget what the other thing we've settled on as the other animal at this point, but they suspect again that it's this perhaps naturally occurring or perhaps man-made chimera virus. Either way, I guess we know that man-made viruses do exist, and we know that naturally occurring chimeras exist. The real issue. So we also know China. So if you look at it from American perspective, we sort of it's sort of public. It's sort of the agreed publicly that we know that the virus started in China, in Wuhan. We've heard that it started at a food market, and that is generally the accepted story here. And we know that in China, at least we've heard that the government stance from China is that America created the virus and brought it there. So according to America, so we're essentially, what we are looking at is that America is suggesting that, I don't know. I don't want to say it, but I think in America, because we have different customs, so we approach it differently. America is assuming that China is innocent of the charges, which we suspect them of, which is that this is a man-made virus and that it was deliberately released by China. Period. That's what the evidence seems to point to. And so that's why in this country we have, in order to be able to investigate, claims like this, especially serious issues like this, we have a process in our legal system where we assume innocence on a party until proven guilty. So America's essentially assuming China's innocence for the crime that it appears that they may have committed. And we're investigating further to see whether or not that's the case. So the last I heard, China was saying that that the virus originated in America, and I'm not sure because we hear in America that China says it was naturally occurring, but they're telling their citizens that it's man-made and that it comes from us. So hopefully that's a good picture of the where both parties are coming from with it. I think different people across the world are in different places. I think this is going to go to, I guess you could say it's going to go to the trial of public opinion in one sense. And yeah, I think I think it's a pretty serious issue. I think we should figure it out. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether further study of COVID-19 samples will lead to whether or not it's going to lead us to further answers to those questions because, well, for several reasons. We're going to go to break here, but one of the reasons is that samples of this virus are few and far between, and I've heard I have yet to hear of anyone being able to get any substantial sample of this virus to study. So all this stuff because like I don't know if I started off the show by saying this, but the reason this is important to me is because I believe in this saying that we should follow the science. However, I don't believe that science is whatever someone who has assumed power says. I believe science is a method of investigation involving evidence, the use of our mental faculties, things like that. I think it is intimately related to objective reality, and I think it's a process. I don't think that two things that are mutually exclusive can be true in true science. We have, I mean, I believe we come to discover things like quanta, like the existence of the quantum field. And I think that we can find things that we perceive at first as being contradictory. But I think that even that follows this objective reality. And it doesn't, like the existence of the quantum field doesn't change whether the sun is up or not. Everything, the universe does operate on laws after all. I believe even quantum field, I think that was something that stunned our scientists, and I think it confused them about what they were looking at. I think it was a big discovery. But it hasn't, yeah. I mean, they sort of, I would say, I know I said we're going to commercial and we're about to go soon, but I think it's so crazy that scientists, upon discovering the appearance of chaos, us immediately assumed all law was didn't exist. I think it's crazy because it comes down to an ontological contradiction. And to put that, I try to keep the show on a layman's level, but essentially, like I said, it comes down to the old, two opposite things can't be true. And I think that the discovery of quantum theory acted like a magic trick that hypnotized the world scientists for a short amount of time. But I think that I think it hypnotized them into abandoning their the process by which they came to the truth that um, that they rely on to undermine that process, if that makes sense. So it was a nihilistic misstep that corrects itself over time. So we're gonna go to break, and when we get back, we're gonna talk about. Okay, we're back. So I was gonna excuse me. I'm drinking some coffee from the new brand. We're gonna probably be uh they're gonna probably be advertisers on the show. It sounds like we really like their product, and yeah, so we'll tell you more about it. But it's some really good coffee from some good people we know. It's like a cold brew. Hopefully, we're gonna have it available on the show in the not too distant future. Like I said, I want you to feel like you're drinking coffee. I'll go to great lengths for you to feel like you're drinking coffee while you're listening to this show. Okay, so we're talking about COVID-19 today, and we're gonna look at a few things. So I mentioned before the break, I kind of got off on a tangent, but the point of where I was going was that, for one thing, there seems to be for a virus that has alarmed the whole world and demanded ingenuity and solutions. It is in very short supply. We seem to not be able to find this virus at a high enough rate to test to sample it and send it to our scientists to study, even though apparently it is ravishing the country. And you ask, how is that possible? Because wouldn't it be that a person in the hospital, you just go to them and get the COVID out of them, right? I mean, there's like tons of people with COVID testing positive every day. Any scientist could just go get the COVID out of the person. That makes sense, right? And the reason why that would be the layperson's understanding. I understand why you would think that. I kind of thought the same thing. I literally thought the same thing, and I thought, well, maybe me and my buddy could study this COVID disease. The problem is, in order to study a virus, you need a large enough sample. And unfortunately, the samples in most people are not large enough to gather a meaningful sample from. So we don't have really any technology that could get to the COVID inside of a person enough to get a good decent sample, to get that much COVID out of them. So how, and the question, I mean, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I would think, why, how's that, how are they testing for it? And so I looked into it, and the way they test for it is this thing. It's called, and I want to thank my buddy Jamie Deluxe for tipping me off about this too. He's got a great conspiracy channel, and we are in no way competing in the same genre, but we are not connected. We've never worked together on anything, any projects or anything. So fortunately, hopefully I won't be stepping on toes. I think he made a video about this, I think it was 11 and a half months ago when this all started. And I'm not sure when you're listening to this video, the time will change, right? But yeah, November 27th, that's 11 and a half. Yeah, that's close enough. That's like 11. Yeah, it's 11. Well, what's that? 11, 10 and a half, 11 and a half. We're getting there. But anyways, like I said, this guy Jamie Deluxe, I think he's got a YouTube channel. He's got some great videos on this stuff, and they're fun. He's fun to watch. I feel like I do a lot of talking, but he's got some good videos, and his is awesome. He's just awesome. Okay, so check him out. Jamie Deluxe. Jamie is spelled normal. Deluxe is spelled like deluxe with no E. So like DLUX. I think if you just type in Jamie Deluxe into YouTube, it'll probably come up. He's got nice YouTube cover art and stuff. Really cool guy. Okay. Check out his videos. Okay, so we're talking about, he tipped me off to this, but we're talking about these, how do they test for COVID-19 if they can't find enough sample in an entire body to even run tests on this virus? And the answer, my friend, is polymerase chain reactions. Chain reaction testing. It's a process. It was designed, I think it was in the 80s or the 90s. I think it was the 80s. And it was designed by this guy, by a scientist. And the way it works basically is DNA, as you know, looks like a ladder. It's like two strands, and then the two strands are like the ladder, and then there's like rungs going across it. And the rungs contain different pieces of information, basically. Different combinations of a few different proteins. And the way your DNA regenerates. It's always regenerating. It splits right down the middle. It's like the ladder splits right down the middle of the rungs. And then each rung duplicates. I think that's right. But each rung basically, I think it like attaches to, I think it might attach to this polymerase, which is like naturally occurring in you. So, what this test does, anyways, whatever the thing is that the latter half attaches to, in order to reform the second half, in order so that you now have two full DNAs from that one split in half. This polymerase chain reaction test goes into the DNA when it's split up and connects to the DNA. So I think it replaces the polymerase, or they take the polymerase, or what, I don't know. But anyways, they put this stuff onto the end of the ladder, the half of the ladder rung. And so when it duplicates, it's got this stuff. They've got now like a record of all the information on it. But that's just the size of one DNA strand. So they have to like blow it up. Like they need to be able to see, they need to be able to read that information. So then it's called a chain reaction thing. They run what's called an exponential multiplication of it. So they basically like we just saw it, they split it and it doubles it up. So just the same way that DNA, every one of those that doubles each one of those will double. That's called exponential. So it's like 1 goes to 2, and then 2 goes to 4, and then you would think 2, 4, 6, 8, but with exponential growth it goes 2, and then 4, and then you double it. So 4 is 8, and then 8 is 16, and the point is it gets really big really fast. So double 16 is 32, but then double 32 is 64, then double 64 is 128, and it grows really fast. So what this process does is it allows you to take this tiny strand of DNA that you can basically not really, like you can't really put a magnifying glass on the DNA. You need a magnifying glass just to see the DNA. So with this process, you take the DNA and you blow it up. You make it bigger and exponentially bigger and bigger till you get just like a size of what you were looking at. It's like a blown up picture. It's like if you made a copy and blew it up by 100%, and then you blew that one up by 100%. You would eventually, if you had a good enough copy machine that had really good resolution, right? Then the analogy would be that you would eventually be able to see a single cell on a sheet of paper. So that's what a PCR test does. It blows up the DNA until you can read everything on the DNA. It's like you've got a sheet of paper now with a picture of this DNA, and then you can look through the strand of DNA and see what you find. Now this is super interesting. Yeah, I think it's super interesting. Well, we might I kind of want to take a break here. So what we've just uncovered is that the PCR test, the way this polymerase chain reaction test works, is it blows up a DNA strand big enough that you can read everything on it. And the reason we have to do that is because otherwise we wouldn't be able to find enough Covid-19 inside of a person to do any testing on the virus that's inside of them. So I think that's scary, because to me it implies it either implies that this virus is very lethal because such a small amount of it can kill a person. Or else that maybe the reason that the virus, maybe it explains, maybe how little amount of this virus is in people could be part of the reason why so many people who test positive are asymptomatic. Okay, going to break. See you guys on the other side. Bye. Okay, everybody, welcome back to the show. I am glad. I'm super thankful to even have a show, and I'm super grateful that anybody listens to it. And yeah, I just am. So, we're talking about COVID-19 today on the show, and okay, so I don't again, if you want to email in, I feel like it's important. I feel like it's important to the fans to give. I don't want to ever feel like I'm just talking out like it, without. I want it to be open. Like as soon as possible. This is going to be an open lines deal. I'm looking into it. We're gonna expand the show. I'm gonna have. I mean, I don't predict the future. We don't know what a day can bring, but I would like to have this show expanded with a full like a video podcast. Like you'll see my face, and I want it to be a call-in thing where you guys call me. You guys can call me, so it's a conversation. You know. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. But today we are talking about COVID-19, coronavirus. We're gonna cover a couple more topics. I'm starting to get sort of a like a pattern going here for this show, for the structure of the show. So I try to address the stuff we've addressed so far. It's the controversial stuff, but that's all the stuff that's just for better or worse. That's the real stuff. We can't. Part of the goal of this show is we're gonna discern between the rumors, what's true and what's not true. So we're gonna cut through the conspiracy. We're gonna cut through conspiracy theories that aren't real. We're gonna find out which conspiracies are real and which ones aren't. Now, I have a feeling that's a hero's task, of course, right? But that's what this show is about, and I don't think our goal is to uncover every mystery. But we do. It's fun. It's a fun thing to have a show, and we can. I think it's helpful, especially we've talked about it on the show before, but I think it's really helpful, especially when there's so much confusion going on. I'm a big believer in truth. I think that I believe that it's a real thing, and I think that freedom of information and the ability to freedom of speech, the ability to discuss things, is I think it's the greatest protector of liberty that we have. So I think it's the greatest protector of liberty that we have. Yeah. So anyway, we covered what is COVID-19 a little bit. Now you guys, hopefully, again, I've also said this before, but so I'll probably this will probably be very episodic in nature, where I repeat myself every episode. But the point of this show is not to definitively inform you about each and everything, but I want to touch on all these topics, and I want to cut through and sort of get you. I want to touch on all the things people are saying. I want us to weed out some of this stuff, and instead of trying to debunk all the untrue things, I like to just touch on a few things that we know are pursuable for evidence. Like these things are evidentiarily establishable or established. That's the kind of stuff we discuss on this show. So we've talked about the PCR test today. We've talked about man-made and naturally occurring chimeras, and whether or not COVID was either of those. And real quick, we are going to cover a couple more topics. That whole tangent was to explain that at the end of the show, we like to really touch on the kind of conspiratorial stuff, the stuff that we can't explain, the stuff that's probably not gonna ever hold up in a court case, but that gets you thinking. It's stuff you should see, and you should do with it what you will. But this stuff especially, but with all this stuff, the point is for you guys. The point is of broadcasting a show. For me, for this show, is to give touching points for people, to sort of make it easier for you to pursue your investigations of information. So we will, as far as this business goes, the people working for this business will in the future be continuing to bring you the stuff that other people aren't talking about, but deserve investigation. I think inevitably we're gonna come into reporting on some things that are lies. We know there are a lot of lies going on. So that's again why I want to make this a conversational podcast as well. But anyway, yeah, We're gonna cover this with COVID-19. So with that huge disclaimer, we're gonna talk about first the disappearance of the flu. Maybe I should have split these topics up because this one's not as crazy, but the second one is pretty out there. But the disappearance of the flu, this one is also I should have I should have mentioned this in the earlier segments. The flu really did disappear, apparently this year. So we don't know now. This is why it doesn't hold up in court. I wouldn't try to make a court case out of this. We know 95% of the cases of the flu that we would normally have seen this year vanished. So either either COVID-19 coincided with the naturally occurring cure of the flu, like so nature cured the flu at the same time as it created COVID-19, or COVID-19 has something to do with the disappearance of the flu. So 95% of the cases of the flu that we would have normally had reported were not reported this year. So only 5% of people who would have normally gotten the flu, which happens every year, got it. So one thing that could mean, right, is that the people who were gonna get sick with the flu, got sick with COVID-19 instead. And so either they had both, or they, I mean, we're lay people, and I don't know. I'm not an expert on everything, so I don't really know. But from my layperson's understanding of how the flu works, it doesn't not go inside of you because another virus is there. So it may be what people would be suggesting, what we would be thinking is not that the flu didn't get in people, but that most likely people who would have been killed by the flu were killed by COVID instead. So that's one theory, and another theory, I guess, another way to look at it is that it's possible that some of the cases that were reported as COVID cases could have been flu cases. Those could have been people with the flu who died. I'm not saying all of them, but I'm not saying it's not all of them. We don't know. The reason why I guess I should have covered this too. So it's gonna be a long last segment, but we could probably do a whole episode just on all the different ways that the test could be wrong. All these false positives and false negatives. We covered the PCR test, so you guys, I think that sort of is the nail in the coffin, but just for the record, we could do an entire episode on all the different ways that that false positives and false negatives could occur. But anyway, depending on how you want to look at it, either the people who died this year of COVID were comorbidities, or else they were falsely diagnosed they were given a false what do you call that, cause of death. Now I'm just saying those are the two options. I am not claiming that they were given false causes of death. but either that happened uh, or 95%, that 95% showed up as comorbidities with COVID-19 and were simply marked down as COVID-19 deaths, with or without even marking down the comorbidities, which is usually at the discretion of doctors. And I say that loosely because they generally, from my lay person's understanding, as a general practice, they would record the comorbidities. It would not be prudent or acceptable practice to simply leave off a comorbidity without cause. So it's more than likely that the 95% of people who would have died from the flu but didn't this year show up in the comorbidities for COVID deaths. Okay, so the last topic, this is the fun one that I think this is fun. We're why people think, what fuels the rumors attention. We apologize for the technical difficulties. As you could probably tell if you were listening to the show before we added this segment, the segment, the portion of the episode discussing Agenda 21, unfortunately didn't make it through the process of transcoding the audio to put on the episode. So you may have, if you listened to the episode last night, you may have found large portions of silence and random snippets for like the last 15 minutes of the show or something. So we apologize for the technical difficulties, and we're going to go ahead and just do a whole episode on Agenda 21 separately. So look forward to that one pretty soon. Thank you guys so much for being with us. Have a great one.
Hello. Howdy, howdy. Say again?